U.S. ethanol exports are set to drive record production in 2025, offsetting stagnant domestic demand. The U.S. is on track to export a record amount of fuel ethanol for the second year in a row this year. As domestic consumption has been relatively flat in recent years, exports are expected to make up an increasing share of U.S. fuel ethanol production. Even as U.S. corn exports run at a record pace, more bushels likewise will be bound for overseas in the form of fuel over the next year. U.S. ethanol production resumed growth trends following the COVID-19 pandemic. According to the EIA, output hit a record 16.2 billion gallons in 2024. Despite the growth, U.S. fuel ethanol consumption remains below pre-pandemic levels due to lower gasoline consumption, and demand could remain lackluster heading into the next year. According to data from the Energy Information Administration, U.S. fuel ethanol exports averaged 138,000 barrels per day in the first 7 months of 2025. That is the equivalent of about 1.2 billion gallons and the highest January through July average for data going back through 2010. Exports represented 13% of domestic ethanol production. That compared to the record 12% share in 2024 and the pre-pandemic high of 11% in 2018. The EIA noted that ethanol exports have driven proportional growth in domestic production. That growth has made fuel ethanol more resilient than other U.S. biofuels. Total growth in biofuel production capacity slowed in 2024, largely due to weaker growth for renewable diesel and biodiesel. However, fuel ethanol growth increased more in 2024 than in previous years. Shipments to the Netherlands accounted for much of the growth between 2024 and July of 2025, benchmarking the increased demand in Europe. Additionally, blending mandates have supported exports to India, the United Kingdom, and Canada over the past year, and Canada has been our top export market for more than 2 years. That proportional growth between the U.S. ethanol production and exports does not mean proportional growth in corn used for ethanol production. That is largely due to efficiencies in the production process. Ethanol production has become more efficient using fewer bushels per gallon. So while U.S. ethanol production through July is 2% higher than a year ago, corn used for ethanol is actually down 2%. Still, corn demand is expected to benefit from overall growth. U.S. processing margins remain strong for producers, benefiting from the strong export market. And with the expected record corn harvest this season, ethanol net exports and production could remain near records heading into the next year. Thanks for watching. I'm Dawson Schmidt, and this has been a special report from Trader PhD.